Hello YouTube and welcome to another Cisco tutorial. So in this video I'm gonna show you how to protect Cisco devices against denial of service and also dictionary attacks. So are you ready? Let's get started. So in order to actually implement this protection, we use a mechanism called login block. Okay, so by default login block is disabled in routers and switches, but here I'm going to show you how to enable it and use it. Okay, so first thing first, let me go to my router here, Cisco router. So I'm going to the privileged exec mode. Okay, and I will show you the command that show that this login block is disabled. So I'm gonna issue the command show login. So as you can see here, no login delay has been applied and no quiet mode access list has been configured. Okay, so the router not enabled to watch for login attacks, which means that login block is disabled. So first, before actually to enable it, let's test it. Okay, so let's test that. So in order to test it, we're gonna use actually a very famous tool called Hydra. Okay, so you can find it in many Linux distributions, or you can install it or compile it, but here I'll be using here, let me show you, Kali Linux, because by default it comes with Kali Linux. Okay, so here I am on my virtual machine Kali Linux, and if I type Hydra, you can see that is installed. Okay, so you can see here Hydra is a tool to guess and crack valid login and password pairs. Okay, so once again, you should not use it against any one router or switch. So here I'm using it just on my personal router on my home network. So okay, so I'm doing that just for learning purposes. Okay, and the version I'm using here is version 9.4, as you can see. Okay, so actually I'm gonna actually perform a dictionary attack against my home Cisco router. Okay, so the command is actually pretty simple, but before actually executing this dictionary attack, I'm gonna actually enable two functions on my router that will allows me to show this login attempts. Okay, so I'm going to the config or the privilege exec mode. Okay, I'm gonna issue the command login on failure logs. So in order to log all failure login attempts. Okay, and I'm gonna do the same for successful attempts also. Okay, so we do two commands I can see on my console here, because I have a putty that is actually let me show you here. I'm resetting. So here on my console I will show all the login attempts because I have enabled these two commands, login on failure and login on success logs. Okay, so now I can return back to my Linux box, Kali Linux, and perform the attack. Okay, so let's go once again to our Kali Linux, and I will be using this text file here that contains word lists. So as you can see, it contains a bunch of word lists. So I'll be using it also with my cracking tool. So here I'll be using this simple actually command in order to do a dictionary attack on my router. Okay, so L stands for login, so I'll be using the login aminos. Okay, and T4 means I'll be running 4 parallel tasks at the same time, and minus capital P, and here I provide actually the path to this dictionary file on my desktop, and I'll be here using SSH. Okay, and here the IP address of my Cisco router. Okay, so let's launch this, and now I'm going to my console, my PuTTY console, in order to see if I get something. And indeed you can see here I have multiple login fields, okay, for user Aminos, and that 1.126 is the IP address of my Kali Linux. So you can see now I'm performing a dictionary attack against the router, okay, and we have no mechanism to prevent that. Okay, so I will return back to my terminal. I will Control C just to stop this attack. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I want to go to activate the login block on my router. Okay, so let me go to my router here. Okay, so in order to activate the login block, we issued the command login block 4. Okay, so I will do the command here, login block 4. So I will block the attempt for 16 seconds, which means actually a minute. If we have an attempt of 5 failure attempt within 10 seconds, okay, I will activate that. So if I return back to my privilege exec mode, if I issued command show login, now we have a different output. So we have a default login delay of 1 second, and no quiet mode access list has been configured. I will show you how we can configure that. So here we have all successful login is logged, all failed login is logged, because we issued two commands. But the most important thing here is this final line here. So here, router enabled to watch for login attacks. Okay, so if more than 5 login failure occurred in 10 seconds or less, login will be disabled for 16 seconds. So this phrase here means this command we issued, login block for 16 attempt 5 within 10. Okay, so the mechanism is actually activated, but there is a problem. So if we have these 5 login attempts, we'll not be able to access our router, even if we actually enter from a legitimate IP address. Let's say that you have an attack and you want to access your router from a different PC, from your laptop. So you have actually to do an access list in order to allow that legitimate IPs can log on to your router. Okay, so actually we can do that via an access list. So let's go to our config mode. Here we go, and let's create an IP access list. So I will issue the command IP access list. Actually, here we go. That will be an extended access list, and I can name it whatever I want. Let's name it, for example, login access. So this access list will permit legitimate IPs to access our router. So I will permit an IP from a host that we know, for example my laptop here, which has an IP address of 192.168.1.15. okay, and of course the word in it. So here we have configured our access list to permit legitimate access. Okay, so now if I return to my user privilege exec mode and I will show login, here we go. Now you can see that everything is working perfectly, but we have to test it against our cracking tool or our attack. So now let's actually do the same attack and see the result. Okay, so I'll return back to my Kali Linux. Here we go, and I'll try to issue the same command, But now remember that we have activated login block for 16 seconds. So I'll launch that, and of course in our console we still will get messages. Hopefully, here we go. So you can see the first login attempt, and now we have an access list that has been applied that deny access from this IP address from my Kali Linux. Okay, and even in our tool we have some error. So as you can see here, one target was disabled because of too many errors. One target did not complete because actually the login block mechanism is launched for 1 minute. So we are preventing our router from denial of access service or dictionary attack. So we have successfully completed our task. And of course, if you log in using your laptop, you can still log in using SSH because you have configured an legitimate IP to access actually the router via an access list. So remember that it's very important to implement in your router or switch. Okay, so that was just a brief video about how to protect your Cisco devices against denial of service and dictionary attack. As always, I hope it has been informative for you, and I want to thank you for viewing. Bye bye.